Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. Here today to discuss about AEW Dynamite, January 27, 2021. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, what the fuck are you waiting for, man? We got videos uploaded every single week. Maybe not every single day, but we at least have 3 to 4 videos uploaded a week discussing about pro wrestling shows. And folks, depending on how the Royal Rumble turns out to be on January 31st, this coming Sunday, if Goldberg wins the WWE Championship, WWE Raw and SmackDown will be discontinued on this channel. I will not go ahead and torture myself any longer if that happens. If he loses, terrific. If he don't, count me out on doing reviews and wasting 3 hours of my time on Monday nights and Friday nights for SmackDown. Tonight, AEW's Dynamite episode, I gotta admit, guys, I was a little disappointed. Some of the matches were good, but there was no spark to the show. This was a flat show. Very dead. Nothing really appealed me at all. I wasn't intrigued by anything they were really doing all that much. A little bit of Hangman Page I was intrigued by. I liked the match that the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers had against the Dark Order. I thought that was a really good match. That was a great main event. But the rest of the card I could have lived without. We had Eddie Kingston actually go up against Lance Archer to kick off the show. I actually was unable to watch this match. Something happened with my DVR on YouTube TV. As you guys may know, I sometimes go ahead and watch the show a little bit later than normal so I can skip through commercials. I don't particularly care for the commercials all that much. It really bores the shit out of me and makes the show really shitty. Yeah, something happened. It was going on Eddie Kingston for the first minute and 30 seconds, and then poof, it just went kaplooey. It blacked out. I had a black screen throughout the entire section of that match. Throughout that entire match, there was just a black screen. I don't know why. I tried rewinding it, restarting it over, seeing if that was the case. Nothing changed. It was just the same spot where it got messed up. So something happened during the time it was being DVR'd. I don't know why. I don't know if anyone else had that issue, but I doubt it. So Eddie Kingston actually won the matchup. I don't know how it happened outside of showing what the Butcher and the Blade did to Jake the Snake Roberts. I think something distracted Lance Archer with them attacking him, and that became a weak point in the match where he ends up getting screwed. After the match is over, though, Butcher and the Blade beat up Archer some more. Bunny slaps away at a fallen Archer, and Butcher and the Blade hold Archer as Kingston cracks him with another spinning back fist, and that was the end of that segment. So I don't know how the match was, but kind of glad I missed it. Jon Moxley was up next. He tries to figure out the situation between the Young Bucks, Good Brothers, and Kenny Omega. He doesn't think it's going to work. He feels like there's too much drama with the Elite. They're kind of like the Young and the Restless, he kind of said. Moxley then brings in the Death Triangle and all the relationships that stem from them. Moxley says he's a simple man. And in the business, there's only one person you can trust, and that's yourself. Moxley tells his partners, Pac and Phoenix, to saddle up for their match at Beach Break against Omega, Gallows, and Anderson. That match should be really fun and entertaining. I can imagine that Jon Moxley is probably going to win that matchup. The next thing that came up was a section a next segment where they showed up at a random building. Sting talks with Taz, Brian Cage, and Ricky Starks about their upcoming street fight. Sting didn't appreciate being called a hoodlum by Taz. Allen says it doesn't matter in the streets if you are clean or dirty. It's all about survival. Allen then throws his skateboard through a window. Allen says it's no different than Sting. Sting bashes a bunch of windows with a baseball bat and agrees he's a hoodlum. Wow. Big whoop. Nothing spectacular there. I am looking forward to seeing Sting in a matchup. I didn't imagine him actually being in a street fight. And to be quite frank with you, I see Team Taz to be more along the lines like the Hurt Business in a more adult-like format. My only problem with it is they're always losing. Kind of like the legit Hurt Business in WWE at this point. Beforehand, in 2020, they were most of the time winning. They had their wins and their losses here and there, but the majority of the time they had a winning streak going. Now they're just losing mostly outside of Bobby Lashley. He's the only protected member of the Hurt Business that's not losing. And Team Taz, they come across tough. They beat the shit out of these group of people later on in the show, but there's nothing there for them. They have no momentum. They're always his guys are always losing at some point. They're never really benefiting at all in any of the matches they're put in. So I don't see the point of how there's such a big threat to Sting and Darby Allin. And Sting being in a matchup so soon against Starks and Brian Cage, I don't particularly like. I think it's kind of stupid to do that so quick. I think a triple threat match for the TNT Championship would have been a lot better. And just putting Sting in his corner without it being a street fight would have been the smarter idea. Just to even out the odds a little bit for him. But, hey, what are you going to do? Jericho and MJF actually tag teamed in their very first tag team official match without it being anything involving the Inner Circle. They went up against the Varsity Blondes, and they won. Chris Jericho connected with a Judas effect to, I think it's Brian Pillman Jr., I believe. Let me just check. Yeah, Brian Pillman Jr. Actually gets a Judas effect, and then Jericho hits a lion salt for a 1, 2, 3, and that's basically it. The matchup was pretty standard. Nothing bad. I think the Varsity Blondes did a pretty decent job against two guys like Jericho and MJF. They made them look very good and suitable for moving up in the tag team ranks. I don't think, Varsity Blondes are anything to take seriously, but they actually did a decent job in this matchup, and Jericho and MJF helped them look a little bit decent, despite the fact that they had to lose to him in the process. So I didn't have any problems with this match. This match was actually really entertaining and fun. I like the storyline that they got Sammy Guevara and MJF doing. MJF and Sammy Guevara got a lot of tension going on between the two of them. That actually showed later on in the show where MJF tried to apologize to Sammy Guevara about what happened with Wardlow getting involved. He mentions that Wardlow didn't actually get paid for this week because of what he did. He thought it was wrong. But Sammy Guevara is not buying into anything he says at this point. He hasn't bought into it from the get-go. He thinks that MJF is full of shit, and he doesn't want really anything to do with him. I think he's just trying to get along with him and dealing with him and being in the team because Jericho asked him to, and he's just doing it for Jericho at this point. I would be very inclined to the idea of maybe Sammy Guevara going with Matt Hardy, since they actually did have a story built between the two of them like last year. and so forth. And Matt Hardy believed that he would have been successful if he would have just broke away from Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle. And with this situation going on, and him being very upfront about to Jericho about MJF and telling him that this guy is no good and he won't listen to him and so forth, and Matt Hardy now being like a manager type figure instead of an in-ring professional wrestler, I think this is actually a good opportunity. But the problem is, Sammy Guevara seems more of like a face right now within the Inner Circle than a heel, and Matt Hardy is actually kind of like playing the heel character. But later on in the show, which I'll get into, he doesn't really play that role at all. It kind of contradicted everything they did last week. I'll get right into it once I get to that segment. We had Pac send a message to Kenny Omega, who thinks he owns the business and is taking liberties. Pac calls Don Callis a clown, and Pac says Omega is just manipulating people and attacking people from behind. Pac says next week at Beach Break, Omega is going to face the consequences of his actions. Then we had a segment showing Shaq challenged Cody Rhodes to a match in March, and Cody and Arn Anderson heads out to the ring after they played this, which this whole thing with Shaquille O'Neal and Cody makes no sense. I really don't understand it. They never really have explained anything why they're having any friction with one another. Outside of maybe the little bit of friction that Shaq had with Cody's wife, but other than that, I mean, I don't really see it. This is not really anything to go crazy over or consider to be a legit matchup to be built into a pay-per-view match. I'm kind of disappointed in what they're doing with Cody, and so forth. So I'm not quite getting this. This is really stupid. But they had Cody and Arn Anderson head out to the ring. Tony asked Cody what he has to say to Shaq and even Jade Cargill. Cody says he would keep it simple. Shaq and Jade versus Cody and Brandy. But life happened. Since Brandy is now having a baby, Cody says he defers to his coach when he's not sure where to go. I don't know why he would need to go to Arn Anderson for advice. He's in his prime of his career as a professional wrestler. Why would he need to turn to someone like Arn Anderson? I don't quite understand that. He should be able to know what the fuck to do in a situation like that. You get your fucking ass in the ring, you kick the guy's ass, you go home, and you take care of your wife and your kid. That's what you do. Personally, I don't understand why you would even give a shit about Shaquille O'Neal. I don't even get this. This is like a WWE type of situation. This is definitely a rant right here. Personally, I feel this is the most dumb creative decision AEW is doing right now. This is reminding me of a WWE thing. This is a forced segment, a forced creative decision that makes absolutely no fucking sense whatsoever. This makes no sense. And I don't get why it's such a big deal that it needs to happen on pay-per-view. Why? Because we got Shaquille O'Neal? Oh, we're gonna give the old stab to the WWE because we had Shaquille O'Neal on WWE, and now he's decided to come over to AEW because he works for NBA TNT Studios for pre-shows and post-game shows. I don't understand. This is so stupid. It really is. I don't particularly like it. It doesn't really help the product out in any way, shape, or form. This was the same situation with Mike Tyson. They had something going off of Chris Jericho and him, and it never, evolved into anything. It just ended up dead. There was nothing that came from it. It was stupid. This is the same exact thing. It's completely stupid. I mean, at least Tyson and Jericho had something to go off of. A 2010 situation, but it's long gone and dead kind of thing. But at least they had some kind of reason to dislike each other because of what Jericho went through with Tyson in 2010. Here, I don't see any kind of friction or reason for these guys to even have a reason to compete against each other in any way, shape, or form. But Arn Anderson convinces Cody to accept the match, and he brings out a person who is actually interested in taking Brandi's place because she was a victim to Shaquille O'Neal and Jade Cargill. That is Red Velvet. So she heads out to the ring. And Arn Anderson says she's got fire, just like Cody. Red Velvet looks at the camera and says she's out here tonight because she's tired of getting attacked and Brandi getting disrespected by the coward Jade. Red Velvet says Cody would never put a hand on Jade, but she's Red Velvet, and I will stir your bitch ass up. Tony says it sounds like the ball is in Shaq and Jade's court at this point for this match to be taking place on March 7th for Revolution. They actually moved back the pay-per-view, I think, one more week or so because it was originally for February 27th, but they moved it to March 7th instead. So I'm not quite sure what the hell the big deal is. Red Velvet did cut a very fantastic promo. I think she did an excellent job. Sounded very good at what she was trying to get off her chest and really let out her frustrations. I thought that was fantastic on her part. She did an excellent job on that. But other than that, this segment was just it made no sense. It was stupid as fuck. Hangman Page, now we get to the real good parts of this show that I actually liked. Hangman Page versus Ryan Nemeth. Now, Ryan Nemeth, to me, looked like fucking... Oh, yeah. Well, this will explain why. I was about to say he looks like Dolph Ziggler. He's actually the real-life brother of Dolph Ziggler. That is the reason why he looked like him. I didn't even realize that, but I was saying to myself, probably he's the brother of Dolph Ziggler, and now he actually confirming this off of Wrestling Incorporated, he is the brother of Dolph Ziggler. Now, Dolph Ziggler ought to consider going to AEW at this point, and him and his brother could become a tag team and actually mean something on the roster, unlike what he is with good old Bobby Roode, who things aren't looking so glorious on SmackDown, because to be quite frank with you, I haven't really heard much about what they're doing. They ain't making any sparks fly in the tag team division of SmackDown, but God knows, they never do. So, Hangman Page has a decent match. He ends up winning the match, regardless. I mean, you couldn't think he was going to lose the fucking match. God help us if that was going to happen. But Hangman Page wins. And after the match is over, you really take a good look into his eyes, and the camera actually gave a nice shot of this, very beautiful shot of Hangman Page's eyes. Hangman Page looked very down. He looked very depressed. He doesn't look very happy. He kind of feels like what Matt Hardy said. He feels like he's lost. He's in limbo. He has nowhere to go. He has no friends. He has nothing going for him. He's changing in the hallway before he has his matches and so forth to get ready. He feels sympathetic for Hangman Page, Matt Hardy. He feels that the Omega and the Young Bucks, what they did to him was terrible, and they buried him. He says the Dark Order have been trying to come after him as well. They're trying to show some sympathy and care for him as well in that sense. And Matt Hardy tries to extend that same exact feeling towards him and what happened to him in the Elite. He then goes ahead and he mentions about the whole dressing room situation. He says, I have a much bigger dressing room, and Paige states that Paige is more than welcome to go there instead. No strings attached. Doesn't mean he has to be part of the Matt Hardy brand or anything like that. He just wants him to feel welcome, feel a part of something instead of feeling like an outcast. Very nice, caring, considerate words by him. But unfortunately, it doesn't really add up to the part where he's been playing a heel for the last couple of weeks, and now he's got the Private Party doing the exact same thing. I don't see Hangman Page joining the Hardy brand, the Matt Hardy brand. I highly doubt that's going to happen. Now, granted, if Matt Hardy was still a face, and Hangman Page and him started striking some business relationship, and this led to him joining up with the Matt Hardy brand, I would be okay with this. Sammy Guevara would even be a better pick for that because of what happened in 2020 with Matt Hardy trying to convince that Sammy Guevara needs to get away from the Inner Circle and, most importantly, Chris Jericho, so he can reach his full potential and get to that higher level in his career to where he was a possible world heavyweight champion contender later on in the future. So this segment was good, but it didn't make sense based on the situation, what Matt Hardy is doing as a heel. He's playing a face-like character here, showing sympathy towards Paige, but yet in the same breath, he's supposed to be portraying a heel at this point, which, by the way, made no fucking sense either. As I've said the last couple of weeks, they never mention why Hardy changed to a heel. He comes off saying the fans didn't care about him. Give me a fucking break. At All Out, people were fucking pissed off at Tony Khan for what he did, trying to restart the match and have the match continue to finish the thing up based on the stipulation they put on Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy during that match. Well, it fucking made no sense. Again, illogical. Very illogical shit. Don't get me wrong, mostly this show is not illogical, but there's some things they fuck up on this show for the last couple of weeks that I am not enjoying. Jungle Boy, he went one-on-one with Dax Hardwood. This was a good match. A very, very good match. Possibly the match of the night. Outside of the 8-man tag team match with the Young Bucks and Good Brothers versus the Dark Order. That match was fantastic. Very well worth a main event spot. Out of all the matches that was placed on the show tonight, that was probably the best match. But this was very good too. No doubt about it. Jungle Boy performed very well in this matchup and made Dax Hardwood tap out. Now, that leaves questions. What does that make FTR as a whole in the tag team division? Do they go down in the rankings because Dax Hardwood lost to Jungle Boy? Or does the rankings stay the same because it wasn't a tag team match, it was just a singles match? I kind of feel that Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus should be moving up number 1 and FTR should be going down to number 2. But with all that being said, it doesn't really make a difference one way or another about the rankings because they're going to have a battle royal next week in tag teams in a battle royal to determine who's the number 1 contender. But if the Young Bucks, who is a part of this, wins, since they're the tag team champions, they get to choose who the fuck they get to face at Revolution. And they've already mentioned this later on in the night, after the main event was over, and they already mentioned that would be the Good Brothers for their tag team titles. So there you go. Anyway, matchup was very good again. Jungle Boy wins by submission against Dax Hardwood in a very hard-fought victory. Sorry about the fuck up there. But post-match, the handcuffs are removed. Luchasaurus had both Tully Blanchard and Wheeler handcuffed to him. And This eventually led to them being removed from the handcuffs after the match was over. Tully throws powder into Luchasaurus's eyes, and Wheeler drops him on his head. I believe it was with a suplex. Wheeler gets in the ring and beats up Jungle Boy as well, and he then takes a slingshot suplex. Tully goes up to the top rope. Hardwood and Wheeler get Luchasaurus, and they spike pile drive him. Well, not exactly. They noticed that his head was very close to the mat. They didn't want to take a chance, so they kind of looped him a little bit further so he would land more on his back than on his skull, which was very smart on their part, even though there was a little bit of a botch there. But they did the safest thing they could possibly do, and that's having him land on his back instead of partially landing on his head, in which case they had him too far down. We would have had a Stone Cold Steve Austin incident like Owen Hart did to Steve Austin in 97 SummerSlam. Thankfully, we didn't get that here. Afterwards, they handcuff Luchasaurus to the ropes, and they cut the horns off of his mask as a souvenir of victory of beating the shit out of the the Jungle Express. So they go to cut Jungle Boy's hair, and Marco Stunt runs out and throws a chair at them. The chair was bigger than he was, to be quite frank with you, which was kind of fucking weird. He throws a chair at them as SCU and Top Flight also run out to help them. We then get a segment outside of Daly's place with Team Taz, which I mentioned earlier. They end up beating up a bunch of people and making it look like as if they're the NWO, with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall taking a Rey Mysterio type of look, basically taking the same look that NWO first did with Rey Mysterio with Kevin Nash and smashing Rey Mysterio's head into the fucking trailer of a truck. They did the same thing here with some concession stand guy that was selling merch outside the Daily place. Completely idiotic. I don't quite understand how they can make them look 1 minute really tough and then the next minute make them lose and look like a bunch of punks and losers. I don't get that. That really doesn't help them out very much at all. Puts them in a very bad spot. Brett Baker beat Shayna. This was, whatever. It's women's wrestling in AEW. What do you expect? I'd take WWE women's wrestling any day of the week. When it comes to the top four, Charlotte's kind of slipping down that bad slope of being one of the worst of the four horsewomen out of the bunch at this point. Becky Lynch still hasn't come back yet because she's taking care of her kid. Personally, guys, I don't see anything noteworthy when it comes to AEW women's wrestling. So post-match, Baker's with a kick to the back of the head, curb stomp, another kick to the head, and lockjaw applied once again. Thunder Rosa's music hits, and she runs out to the ring for the save. Reba and Brett run out of the ring and to the side of the stage with Rosa close behind. Rosa yells at them and then goes into the ring to check on Shayna, and that's that segment. Already discussed about MJF and Sammy Guevara. I'm not going to discuss it again. We had a recap of what's going to be happening next week. Just giving us heads up on what's happening next week for next week's Dynamite. We're getting a wedding of Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian, which ain't all that big of a deal. Thunder Rosa is going to be facing Brett Baker. Tag Team Battle Royal for determining the number one contenders for the tag team titles at Revolution. AEW World Champion Kenny Omega will be tag teaming with the Good Brothers, with Don Callis in their corner against Jon Moxley, Pac, and Rey Fenix. That will be the main event, more than likely. We get mention of the Women's World Championship Eliminator Tournament to determine who will be the number one contender. We have Riho returning after a long stint away from AEW, since losing her title, and she'll be facing Serena Deeb in the first match of that tournament. So, nothing major there. We have backstage interview with Dasha talking with the Good Brothers and the Young Bucks. Gallows hypes next week's match against Moxley, Phoenix, and Pac. Young Bucks says they are excited to team up as long as Don Callis isn't around. Kenny Omega shows up and asks Matt if he's interrupting anything. Omega says they need to talk. Callis shows up with bandages all over the side of his face, thanks to whoever attacked Don Callis. And Matt and Nick ask what happened to him. "You assaulted me," Callis yells. So we already have a clue that the fucking Young Bucks did not actually do this. More than likely, this did not happen, because this is a setup for Callis to try to put the Young Bucks away from Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. They were the original Bullet Club members, technically. Well, thinking about it, Young Bucks were actually there before Kenny Omega was. So forget that comment, but you get my point. He's just trying to keep the Young Bucks away. He thinks they're more of a distraction to Kenny Omega than anything else. So we have the 8-man tag team matchup. That was a really good match. The Young Bucks, the Good Brothers won this matchup. And they got the 1, 2, 3. Post-match, though, Matt gets on the mic and says next week on Beach Break, whoever wins the Battle Royal gets a shot at the titles at Revolution. Matt says they are also in the match, which means they get to pick their opponents if they win. Matt says it could be anybody, and he looks at Gallows and Anderson. They do a too sweet gesture in the ring, and then Phoenix runs out and hits a slingshot double drop kick on the Young Bucks. The Good Brothers immediately take him down, though, and Magic Killer, does not connect. Moxley runs into the ring, clears out the ring. Phoenix with a massive flipping senton on Anderson, which he almost landed on his crotch on the barricade on the outside of the ring, which would have really been terrible for him anyway. Omega runs out with that pointed boot, but runs right into a paradigm shift and heads out. Moxley and Phoenix celebrate in the ring as the show goes off the air, and that is that. Alright, guys, bottom line, this show was good, but it was also terrible. It had no spark whatsoever except for the main event. The Jungle Boy and Dax Hardwood was a great match, singles match for two guys that are tag team specialists. Thought that was fantastic. But this show, guys, oh man, it is not where it was 2 weeks ago. It was not, it really hasn't been a very good show. It's kind of hit a dry spell in my opinion. The last 2 weeks have not been impressive. This is actually worse than last week's. To be quite frank with you guys. And they're just not hitting any sparks. They're not making any intrigue. They got some storylines that I openly admitted to you guys in this review that are good. Some of them don't make any sense. Some of them aren't explained. And some of them I don't even give a shit. But things that are going on in the inner circle, things that are going on with Hangman Page, and things that are going on with the elite between the Young Bucks, Good Brothers, Kenny Omega, and Jon Moxley on the side trying to rear his ugly head in there to get a world title shot again is actually good. But the rest of this show, my God, I could take it or leave it, or please get it off my television. Really. But at least they got some storylines on this show that is worth watching compared to what we know on the other side of the fence is like. Let's just be honest. Roman Reigns is the only fucking thing on WWE that anyone gives a flying fuck about because of how entertaining he is playing a dick. Outside of that, who gives a shit about WWE and what they are trying to portray? Honestly. This show is far better, even in its 2 weeks of bad programming. And I'm kind of overkilling it with bad. It's just, it doesn't have any excitement to it like it has been in the past. This has just been kind of like, you go through the motions and that's it. I don't know, maybe they've reached that dry spell because they're just taking their sweet time building up towards the hyping up of the Revolution. That could be the case. I might be just kind of overstepping my boundaries here and getting a little ahead of myself here. And maybe that's the reason why they're not going all out crazy trying to build towards this pay-per-view. But personally, I just found some things that were good and I found some things that were really bad. And I found, there was some illogical things that are going on here. And I hope they fix these issues. There's a couple of matches on this Revolution card that I'm not really intrigued by. I'm not intrigued by the street fight between Sting and Darby Allin. I mean, I'm interested in seeing how Sting will be in a match since he's been away from the wrestling ring for a while. But outside of that, guys, nothing on this card so far has really enticed me all that much. I may not even go out and buy the pay-per-view. I may try catching it another way. I don't know. Anyway, guys, at this time, you know what to do. Hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And leave a comment down below. I will definitely get back to you on that. As always, thank you again for watching. And for the people that have subscribed recently to the channel, I'd like to thank you all, as well as all current subscribers who have stayed on with me at this point in time. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy these videos. And every time you get to watch these videos, please hit the like button. It will help out the channel dearly. I am really getting some momentum going on this channel. I want to continue that. And I hope that I'm doing an outstanding job for you guys. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. And if you are enjoying them, please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate it. And again, thank you very much for watching. Have a great night, guys. Bye.